Now it's time for Mr. Kalinga De Silva, Managing Director, Founder, Centrum Marine Consultancy.
Good evening, everyone. So my moderator tells me that I technically have 0 minutes to do this presentation. I think a lot of people here today have spoken about the port infrastructure, ships, and the future of it. But here today I'm here to talk about the human element of it. Most of you might not know, we are in the process of establishing what is called the National Marine HR policy for the country. We think it's the right time purely because there's a huge demand of seafarers that are required. So the brains in the industry got together and came up with the term came up with the policy or the requirement for the policy. And today we are heavily supported by the Director General Merchant Shipping as well as the Minister of Ports and Shipping and the Secretary. So without further ado, let me quickly move on with the slide. Initially, when Rohan announced this conference, the idea was to launch the Marine HR policy at this conference. But I think we are about 2 weeks late. The new date is 14th November. So what I'm going to present to you is the thought process behind it and the business case behind it. Yeah. So the overview for the presentation is the current state of Sri Lankan seafaring, that is in terms of statistics. And then we want to also look at the global statistics and the target market analysis, the Marine HR policy roadmap that we are going to take. This is the Sri Lankan case. Starting with the training institute, we have a robust training infrastructure. We have about 3 privately held training institutes. And we also have 4, actually vice versa, 3 government-held institutes and 4 privately held institutes and 1 institute that is specialized in catering training. And the industry together, this is not just the seafarer wages, but also the income that we generate, the indirect income that we generate from the industry is about 437 million per annum. And we are STCW approved, and we are also EMSA, which is European Maritime Safety Authority. We have passed that audit since 2015. It is very important. I will talk about it later on when we talk about issue about in Manila. Currently, the industry has about 16,000 active seafarers. At any given time, this means we have about 6,000 seafarers at sea. These are Sri Lankan seafarers at sea, and these are the slots that brings $437 million approximately. Any given year, we have new blood infusion of about 955. This is not just cadets, trainees, but this is also, you have different ranks, freshers coming into those ranks. So we have about 955 of those. And Sri Lanka being a very centrally located country, we are highly connected. Visa is easily obtainable. Back in the day, we were able to obtain a US visa within just 5 days, but now it's not the case because of the pandemic and so on. There is a 2-minute video that I want to play, just so that I can put the global context into the perspective.
Shipping is going through a time of transformation, and seafarers have an essential role to play. The pandemic has had an enormous and unprecedented impact on our workforce, and the road to decarbonisation poses new challenges and opportunities for ship crews. The BIMCO and ICS Seafarer Workforce Report, formerly the Manpower Report, can help prepare you and your crews for the times ahead. It provides vital information about the more than 1.89 million seafarers currently serving the world merchant fleet, operating over 74,000 vessels. You can learn about the demographics of our global workforce and the changing supply and demand of seafarers over the next 5 years. Our crews need the right skills for a greener and digitally connected future. The BIMCO and ICS Seafarer Workforce Report shows that shipping must significantly increase its recruitment levels. There has been an 11.8% rise in officer demand since 2015, And if officer supply does not increase, a shortfall of 26,000 officers is expected by 2026. Shipping must make greater strides in diversity too. While there has been an estimated 45.8% increase in the number of women seafarers since 2015, this still represents just 1.28% of our global workforce. To future-proof your company and unlock greater insights to guide your crewing and training strategies, get your copy of the Seafarer Workforce Report today.
So this is a video that I borrowed from BIMCO. I'm not promoting BIMCO here. Let's quickly dive into the global statistics. I actually have a few slides within this topic. So first of all, I want to talk about the global fleet in terms of ship type. If you look at the different types, I think it's the bulk carriers market that has really grown within the past 10 years or so. But we also see a slight drop in tankers, but it is set to increase as well. So these are few sectors that will grow in this particular trajectory. Then in terms of beneficial ownership, if you look at Greece is the prize winner with 18% of the world fleet being registered or owned in Greece, and then China 12%, Japan about another 11%, Singapore about another 7%, and Hong Kong about another 5%. But what is very important for us to note is that 40% of it is now owned in China, in Europe, but rest of it is owned in our own backyard, which is Asia. So the powers are shifting. And then in terms of different flag states, the biggest is Panama, as we all know. And then we have Liberia in the second place. Then we also have flag states like Singapore and Hong Kong playing the next levels. It is important for us as manning agents and as crew managers when we target our clientele. It is also important when we draw our policies, because that way we are able to have MOUs with these countries so that the equivalent certificates can be obtained very easily, and our next generation of seafarers can easily go on board of these vessels. If you look at the growth of the fleet in the next 5 years, it is expected that from 74,000 it's going to rise up to about 79,000, which is a steep increase of about 5,000 vessels that will join the global fleet. And if you look at that growth by ship type, there are three key ship owning segments that we can look at, that is the crude oil tankers, then also the LNG powered vessels and LNG tankers, and then cruise vessels. From that, I would like to look at the target market analysis. So we have the conventional vessels that we anyway target, which are the dry bulk cargo and the liquid cargo. But then there are two other segments that we want to look at with a lot of excitement. That's the the passenger vessel market. Right now, the amount of vessels that we have in the world is about 621. By 2026, it's expected to rise up to about 760, which is a steep increase of about 150. Each vessel is a floating island, and these vessels have about 1,100, 1,200 seafarers at sea. This is not just the traditional seafarers, but also the hoteliers, the masseurs, environmental officers, so on and so forth. So we are talking about 120,000 or 150,000 to 160,000 seafarers in total required to man these vessels by 2026. And then an example from our own backyard, which is we've spoken about it a lot, but I am told in about 2 years' time max, this would come into operation, or the Manna Basin in Sri Lanka, the oil exploratory work in that region will become active. And if that happens, we have the cabotage rules. We have a lot of supply vessels coming into Sri Lanka. At that point, if we don't have the right marine HR assets developed, then we will fail when the cabotage rule is applied. We won't be able to employ Sri Lankan seafarers on these vessels if we don't develop the marine resources by then. So this was the business case. These were the examples that we looked at when we wanted to come up with the marine HR policy. We want to be 50,000 seafarers by 2027. And the mission is to inspire ship owners with world-class professionalism at sea. And in order to do that, we have looked at the industry reforms in 5 categories. First one is the regulatory reforms that we want to see, and then also the reforms that we want to see in the maritime education and training, that segment. Then, as we earlier looked at, we want to look at the segment-wise employment development. We want to focus on each and every vessel owning segment, be it container, be it bulk carriers, be it tankers. And then, how do we profile Sri Lanka in global promotions? How do we go as a country? How do we hold symposiums like this for specialized marine HR services? And then we also need to look at well-being and welfare of seafarers. So the marine HR policy that we will have, establish on the 14th of November, we'll look at these 5 different segments. And it'll have 2 drafts. First draft will be, of course, coming to light by 14th. And then after a couple of years, we are looking at the second draft. We are looking at it in stages. In order to do this, we have come together, a multi-stakeholder group has come together. This policy is driven by Association for Seafarer Recruiting Agents together with the Merchant Shipping Secretariat. And joining hands with us, we have CASA, we have LASO, which is Ship Owning Association, and then the Maritime Training Association, Ceylon Shipping Corporation, and then also the ITF Sri Lankan chapter in USS, and Company of Master Mariners and SOCEM. So that brings to the end of my presentation. Thank you. I'll take questions when we have the panel discussion.